What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Babbles Nonsense podcast. On today's episode, we have Meenu back, and we are talking about things such as my human design, tarot card reading, astrology, free will, and spirits. We decided since it's October and Halloween is right around the corner, why not talk about everything spirit and spooky season related? So if you love Halloween, you love the fall, you love all these things, then this is definitely the episode for you.
And transcend into wellness and Babel's nonsense collaboration. I always love this collaboration. I feel like we have so much to talk about. And today, with the spirit of Halloween coming in October and all the Halloween decorations in certain houses, we decided to bring that kind of theme into our topic. So we're going to talk about spirits. We're going to talk about all things woo-woo. We're going to talk about human design, astrology, and all other fun things that go with the conversation. So thanks, Jonna, for inspiring to do this again.
Of course. I love when you're on the podcast. Number one, it gives me something to talk about versus, me and you have talked before, like doing solo episodes are just sometimes
I
so
know.
daunting because you don't have someone there to bounce like ideas off of. So it's
Yeah.
just like, not that I don't mind doing a solo episode, but then it's like I start talking to myself and then it's like no one's there to answer. So you're like, is that true? Is it? I don't know. Is it? Well, I'm going to have to come back to y'all because I can't ask myself that.
I totally feel you because, like, for me, my solo episodes are like 10 minutes, 8 minutes,
Yeah.
12 minutes. I'm like, what do I? I'm done talking about it. I'm a very, like, you know this, I'm a straight shooter and I know that you are too. So it's like, I feel like we don't like really go into it and like, we bounce things off of each other and it's really great, but we don't go on a tangent.
Well, I don't know. You should listen to some of mine. I am a tangent queen, I will say that, but
Really?
not on solos because I get stuck in my own head a lot. And then I'm like, I think I just really like it's weird because people would say opposite. Like I love human interaction and the fact that it seems like I'm always argumentative, but it's not that I'm trying to come across that way. I'm truly just being inquisitive.
Mhm.
Maybe I just need to do better at like how I present it, but like I'm being inquisitive because like I'm truly interested, like, well, why do you think that? Like truly, like
Mhm.
why? So-
Mhm.
but
No,
yeah,
that's good. I think that's good.
no, but I love things like this. Like I love tarot card readings, psychic readings, love that sort of thing. And some of my friends think I'm crazy, but it's like, how can you be like religious and spiritual, but also believe in these things? So I just was like, I think you can have both. I think you can believe in both because
Yes.
talked about this the other day. Like truly, I think that, there was prophets in the Bible
Mhm.
and God gave people the ability to see the future and predict things. So I truly believe that people have certain gifts and I think they were God given.
Yeah.
And I don't know, that's just my beliefs. So, yeah.
Yeah. The way I see it is like, I mean, if you believe in God or if you believe in the universal power of creation, like anybody that's like listening to this, I mean, if you're completely atheist and you don't believe in anything, then I don't know how to relate to you, but you know, but most of the people that are listening to this believe in something. They either believe in a God, they believe in universal energy, power, supreme power, whatever, right? So when we know that the supreme power, created this, when we know supreme power creates everything, whether it's this planet, whether it's this people, whether, it's other planets, whether it's the universe, when we know that, then I think we also should know that the supreme power or God or universe has created these tarot readers, has created, these psychics, like has given energetic permission for them to do their own thing. Just how there are professions for everyone. I think we have to respect that these people do this. And sometimes it's not an all or nothing at all. You can still believe in God. You can still have faith, or you can believe in the universal power, and you can still believe that some people are just really gifted. Like it's a
Right.
thing. It's we talk about clairs. I've talked about it with my few clients, which is clairvoyant, clairsentient, claircognizant, clairaudient. Am I missing something? I think that's it. And then no, that's it. So clairvoyant is the ability to like see things, when psychic ability to see, when you can see, but certain special people can see spirits, can see entities, can see other beings. We also think that children and animals are highly clairvoyant.
Oh, I believe that. I have a story for that when we get like, I truly believe that. Well, I would just go ahead and tell you. So I had a dog when I was in high school. His name was Romeo.
Huh?
And I had Romeo and Coco. They were brother and sister. And my bedroom was downstairs and my parents was upstairs. And I was always scared of the dark. And I think it was right after my grandmother had passed, but there was like a long hallway right connected to my bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
Small house anyways, but um anyway, so my dog in the middle of the night jumps off the bed and goes to the hallway and starts growling. And like
Oh,
obviously it's like midnight, 1 o'clock, whatever. And then there's no one there, no one has knocked, nothing.
uh-huh.
They then start backing up, like walking, growling. And I'm like, oh my God, they see something. Like they
God.
see a ghost, they see something. And
Yeah.
I like instantly got the dog, shut my door, locked it, and was like, what the hell? Who is in
Mm.
this house? It was very freaky and very scary. So I do believe that animals can see things that are not of our
Oh,
world.
absolutely. And I've also like noticed like babies can see things, like they can just see entities or spirits or other things that we can see. And that's because the whale, we call it the whale of consciousness. Like they still have not, the whale still hasn't been lifted for them. It's like, it's still they can still see all other like parallel universes. And we obviously with conditioning after 3 years old, it apparently says that the whale is clear and there's a differentiation. But before you're 3 years old, you actually can see a lot of things.
Oh gosh.
So
It reminds
very,
me of
very.
that kid on that movie that says, I see dead people or something. Like,
Ooh. Really keeping the spirit of Halloween.
yeah, yeah. No,
Yeah.
I wanted to dive into this because you kind of got me into the My Human Design. And
Mhm.
obviously, I love like tarot reading and astrology. I didn't realize how much you knew about astrology. So I was like, let's just lump this into this podcast. But let's just start kind of with My Human Design since it's kind of a
Ah.
shorter topic and we'll end with astrology. But like, kind of explain what My Human Design is for those that have maybe never heard of it or may know a little bit about it.
Right, right, right. So human design, okay, so being completely transparent, like I didn't know human design existed until the last like 3 years, right? So I feel like once I started like seeing charts and reading charts, it just felt like the energetic permission to be yourself. So I think that's why I love human design, because your design is basically given to you based on your time of birth. So because it's based on your time of birth, it's your actual original blueprint into the planet. So it's not something you can change, it's not something you can control, it's not something you can fix, and it really aligns with who you are or who you're supposed to be when you're living your human life in Earth. So human design is a combination of I Ching, the Kabbalah, and then it's a combination of the chakra system and astrology. So it's a combination of so many things. And so a lot of my clients and myself included have found that it is extremely accurate
Yes.
than anything else that I have, really like dabbed my foot into. So it's like I love human design.
No, and when you told me my chart, and then of course, like my whole birth timing was a whole debacle. I had to get my birth certificate reprinted, to find out the time because that, like you said, it's very important because it changes. Like if you say like, so I was born at 5:01 p.m. and initially we didn't know if it was a.m. or p.m. and you were like, it
Yep,
really makes a difference because it
yep,
changed
yep.
the personality type that
You
I
were a
had.
manifesting, yeah, you were a manifesting generator and then you were a generator. I'm like, I'm sorry, like they're different.
Right. And you, since we didn't know the time, like you went ahead and did both for me. And you're like, which one is resonating more with you? And I was like, the generator is. I was like, that resonates more with my personality. And then when we finally found the time, that was the accurate one.
Yes, yes. Isn't that amazing? Like,
Yes, because when you were reading the other one to me, I was like, no, I'm not, I don't
yeah,
know, I'm not like
yeah.
that.
Yeah, yeah, because the other one was like manifesting generators are like very much like go with the flow, kind of
Yeah.
people. And I'm like, Jonna, I don't know about you.
I was like, no, that doesn't sit true with me. I need to know the time, the date, the place we're doing something. I was like,
Yeah, you're more
so
strategic, you're more like you need to have a plan, and that's
right.
like generator thing.
So, kind of speaking on that, what are those actually called? Like what we're talking about, like the generator, the manifestor, the manifesting generator.
Yeah. So, you know how we have the best, simplest explanation I can give is like we have, I think, 12 zodiac signs, right? We have like Cancer, Taurus, Scorpio, whatever. Like we have so many zodiac signs. So, in human design types, we have five. So, we have generator, manifesting generator, manifestor, projector, and reflector. So, we only have five types. So, the entire planet, the entire human consciousness comes within these five types. Okay. And so obviously each type is very different. And so I don't want to get into it and give a full reading, but what I'll do now is just like talk about the fundamental differences in all these types. So generators are people that literally are here to light up everyone else. They are very, they have to do something that they really care about. They can do something just because other people are doing. They have to really like it. They love a step-by-step plan. They love planning things out. They enjoy systems. They're one of these people that are actual hustlers. They can really work hard and they can really hustle, and they have like a defined energy center in their chart. So that means they other people, I don't know how they feel, but other people always do feel like generators have consistent energy to do things,
Mhm.
whether that's consistent energy to work out, whether that's consistent energy to go to work. Like they have consistent supply of energy to do stuff. So that's generators. And I love generators because it's like I'm a projector. I don't have consistent energy. So I feel like we're a moth to a flame.
Well, I'm a generator,
I know.
so yeah, yeah.
And we
And
get along
all
great.
that is, yeah, and all that like literally rings true for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And then it's so interesting. We have manifesting generators, which are also like energy type beings, but they're a little different from generators. They don't necessarily need to go by the step by step things. They don't need to have a strategy and a plan. They're very much like go with the flow. They don't follow timelines. They're like rule breakers. They're like rebels. They're visionaries. Not that generators aren't, but manifesting generators are just like different. Like for them, they can do something for a little bit of time and then they'll get bored and then they'll switch and then they'll do that and then they'll get bored and they'll switch. Like it's hard for them to really sit with something in the long term, right? So they switch timelines, they move really fast. So that's a manifesting generator for you. So, any manifesting generators listening to this, you all nodding and I can feel it. And then the other one is like manifestors. So it's really interesting because manifesting generators especially are like the old souls. They've been on the planet for like many, 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 many years. And then manifestors are also known to be old souls. So manifestors are more like they don't like to be told what to do. They're like leaders and they're very independent in their way of being. Okay, like I've known manifestors that just are like, well, I'm in this relationship and my boyfriend wants to do this, and I don't know, I'm not sure, and always be like, listen, you're a manifestor, so you have your own way of like executing things, you have your own way and style of doing this. So listen to that and maybe have an open conversation with your partner that this is, who you are and it feels out of alignment to do anything else. So manifestors are often considered as natural leaders of the world. So it's really interesting because for a long time, manifestors were the leaders, and now projectors are starting to take the lead in the world.
Oh, interesting. I
So
didn't know that.
yeah, so projectors are actually natural guides of the world. So, like, I'm a projector, but I didn't know I was a projector until like the last 3 years. And I've always loved to, talk to people, be off service. I just love to be off service. Like, if I'm going anywhere, if I'm going to a party, like, I'll always like help clean up after everyone leaves, like, I'm always like trying to like be off service, and I think that's just something that is deeply fulfilling for me. And I know a lot of projectors that are more in the service-based industry. They're either entrepreneurs or they're therapists, they're coaches, so many projectors, right? So projectors are not energy beings. So we don't actually have a lot of energy. We don't have consistent energy. So this is also really important. If you're a projector, you are not for everyone and not everyone is for you. So there will be a selective amount of people that highly resonate with you and that you highly resonate with. But if you're trying to make everybody resonate with you, maybe it won't work. And then you might end up feeling bitter if you're trying too hard. So
Right.
projectors are people that are like guides, are people that don't have a lot of consistent energy, but have energy when they're with other energy beings. So for example, when I record the podcast with Jana, I feel like my energy is just rising and rising and rising and rising because she's an energy being. So I am tapping into her and I am taking the energy.
That's
You
so funny because every time we do a podcast or we've been in person or something like that, I would never say that you're not an energy human being. I would be like, you have so much energy. Like I would feel like, like and when I'm around you, like the energy is just positive and flowing as well. So that's so crazy that because also with your line of work being an energy healer and talking about energy all the time, you would think that's so
yeah.
crazy that you would be a projector.
Yes, I know. It's so funny. You're the second person to say that, but I deeply resonate with being a projector because I feel like you've seen me wear like, the podcaster hat, you've seen me wear the coach hat, you've seen me wear the friend hat, but you've not seen me like chill at home. I am a hermit.
Yeah.
Hermit. Like I love my home. It is very difficult to drag me outside of my house. Like, it almost takes like a sales pitch. Be like, okay, we can go here, do this and do that. Like it's really difficult for me to get out of the house. And because I think my best self and my happy self comes out when I talk to the people that I love and I coach and I do the podcast. People maybe they don't feel that, but I definitely have a very introverted side.
But it makes sense also because, like you said, if I'm a generator and I have consistent energy and you are a projector and you project the energy that you're around, so
Mhm.
technically that makes sense. So if you're projecting my energy, then it would make sense if I constantly have energy that you would too while you're around me.
Oh, 1000%. And so this
Yeah.
is the interesting part, right? Like when I get on the podcast with Jonah, because remember, we talked about generators being energy beings, projectors being non-energy beings. So whenever energy beings and non-energy beings collaborate, the person that has the person that doesn't have the energy center feels energized being around the person that has the defined energy center. And then when they leave, this person suddenly feels like their energy just comes down. So after the podcast, anytime like we collaborate and stuff like that, after it, I always feel like, oh, I guess it's over then.
And see, I feel the same whether I'm on the podcast or not. So that's so interesting, which makes sense.
Mhm.
Okay. I love that
Yeah, and then
analogy though.
we have reflectors. Oh my gosh. So reflectors are the rarest human design type. Very rare. I don't know. I think I know one reflector, honestly. I've done thousands of readings, and I've only known one reflector. Like I think they are so they have all of the energy centers undefined. So when you have your human design chart, when you have defined centers, which if you go to myhumandesign.com and put in your birth time, place and all that, you will get your chart and then you'll see certain areas which are colored. That is your defined centers, which means you are born with that and that is your strong suit. And then you will see some centers where there's no color there, it's empty. And that is your undefined center, which means you're tapping into the collective, you're open there, right? So reflectors have all their centers as undefined.
Oh, wow.
So everything is open.
So then that does that mean like they can choose depending on what they're doing, what they're open to?
Yes, and they also have to be really cautious because they're highly, highly, highly sensitive. Imagine being around somebody that's an energy being and has defined centers, and you have everything undefined. You're taking on a lot from them.
Right.
And then
Interesting.
this is really interesting. So for reflectors, I'll always say when a reflector is getting sick, check the community to make sure the community is okay. Because they might be taking on the stressors, the anxieties, everything, the commotion that's going on with their community, and they might
Interesting.
get sick.
Interesting.
Yeah, so they're very, very, very special people. I think Sandra Bullock is a reflector.
Okay. Now, so this defines like it gets deep into your personality from birth. Can any so like what if someone is born in the same place, the same exact time? So
Mhm.
they have the same birthday, same are they going to have the same chart?
If
Or
they
will the
have the
chart still be a
same,
little different?
well, if they have the same time of birth and place of birth and date of birth, they're going to have, the same chart.
Okay.
They're going to have this exact same chart, actually, but that's rare.
Like twins, but the twins obviously would have different times of birth. So twins can have two different types of
Oh, it
human
really
design.
depends. Yeah, it really depends. Like, for example, let's say one twin is born at 11:30 and the other twin is born at 11:42,
Yeah.
right? They could differ. They
That's
could differ.
crazy.
Yeah, they could differ. And sometimes it won't differ.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes it'll be too close, but sometimes they could differ. Just like how astrology differs, which I know we're getting into.
Yeah.
Astrology literally differs minute by minute. It's like super, it's even more like sensitive. And when
Right.
it comes to times.
Interesting. So, why would somebody want to do a My Human Design chart? Like, is it more just to figure out your personality and how you can connect with your intuition and your own energy?
Yes, so it's basically, let's say the type of clients that have been drawn to doing human design with me is like, hey, Meenu, like I've been going to this job. I don't feel very aligned, or this is my life. I don't feel very aligned in the fact that this is my life, or something feels off. And I just feel lost, right? So
Mhm.
for them, they they just need energetic permission. It's like a permission slip to really be who they are because they are now feeling a little bit further away from their personality. They're feeling further away from their blueprint, right? Something is off. So for them, when I do the human design and say, well, according to the way you were born, this is how you are supposed to show up. This is how you're supposed to be. This is how you're supposed to make decisions. This is how you're supposed to choose partners. This is how like you're supposed to rest, like and have a business plan. Like, everything you can extract so much from the chart, right? And so when I give it to them, it's like, oh my God, this is such a relief. Like now I know, now I understand, this makes sense. The why I've been feeling off, like this makes so much sense. And then I have a lot of clients that have actually like printed out their charts and like pasted it on their mirror in the bathroom so that they can look at it every day and feel like, okay, I really want to like step into my design because it makes me really happy. It makes me feel like myself. And the conditioning of the world is like further and further, it's like enabling me to go away from myself, but my human design is like encouraging me to be myself. So basically it destroys conditioning and
Okay.
it helps you be yourself.
Right. Now, don't worry, guys. If you're nodding to this and you're like, oh my gosh, I need this, we are going to give you all the details at the end if you want a reading from you. So just stay tuned to the end and we'll get you all those details. But let's transition a little bit away from human design into tarot reading for a little bit because I know we briefly wanted to
Yes.
talk on tarot reading a little bit, and then we're going to jump into the main kicker of all of this, which is the astrology.
Yeah.
But tarot reading, I've had some tarot card readings before, and everyone does it differently, which you were kind of explaining the difference in different readers, which I didn't understand. So I was like, oh my gosh, you've got to tell people this on the podcast because I'm sure
Yeah.
there's some listeners that love tarot reading. So let's talk about that a little bit. So define tarot card reading for you and what it's meant to be.
Okay, so let me tell you what it does for me and when I get a reading, like what I expect, right? So it's like, so tarot readings are basically tapping into the reader taps into your current present energetic field and connects to ancestors and guides and welcomes them into that sacred space and then pulls cards, right? So when they are tapped into the current energy field of yours, whether let's say you are going through a breakup or you are devastated, whatever, and they're pulling cards and all the cards that are coming are like validating that you're going through this transition, yada, yada, yada. And then some people even ask like a future card. Hey, can we have a future card? And they pull a future card. So what that is determining is the potentiality of the future based on the current moment only.
Right.
Okay. For example, the next day or the next week, you have a completely different mindset.
Mm-hmm.
You have a completely different energy. The cards are going to be different.
Right. So it's
So
only for that
it's not
moment in
permanent.
space.
Yep, it's only for that moment. It's only for that day. It's only for that moment. It's temporary. It's a temporary form of guidance. It's a temporary form of reassurance. It's a temporary form of like pick me up, right? permanent. Like, it's not like human design where it's like, okay, this is your blueprint, this is who you're going to be for the rest of your life. You know what I mean? It's like,
Right, right.
this is more like with your energy field that I'm tapped into right now, this is the pure potentiality of events that I see happening in the future. And
Guys,
that
for
pure potentiality can change every second of every day.
and which is so funny. Me and you had a read literally like 3 days ago, and she did
Mhm.
the read, like she pulled the cards for me so that we had more time together, like an hour before the read, but it was still the same day. And as y'all all know, I've mentioned several times on this podcast, I have some things going on with my house that I can't quite talk about yet. I'm not completely able to open up about the details of that until it's all said and done. And I know everyone, I've had several people reach out being like, "Are you going to talk about that on the podcast?" I'm like, "I can't yet." And she pulled these cards without her knowing anything, that's going on
Mhm.
because I can't talk about it. And she reads 5 cards to me and then the orders that she gave them. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is everything that's going on with my house right now. And she was like, what? She was like, because she asked me before we started, she said, how's everything going? Like, kind of like a, huh. And I was like, not good, Menu, not good. And she was like, yeah, your cards showed that a lot. She said, but don't worry, it gets better towards the end. And I was like,
Yeah.
it better get better. But yeah, but like that headspace that I was in that day, like it was just a lot of turmoil surrounding the house and everything. But yeah, so
Yeah, it's very, very accurate. It's very accurate to that time, to that specific time that you may be going through it, right?
correct,
And
correct.
so, like some people have told me this, and some people have told me great things about tarot. Like I love tarot for personally, I do, but I don't depend on it for grander, like bigger answers in my life.
Right.
I'm going to tell you why that is. Okay. So, I don't know if people know this, but for a long time, I've waited for my green card for a very long time. Like, so it's like, I think, so I got my green card in 2022 of January, and I had waited for my green card for like 8 to 10 years before that.
Oh,
Right.
wow.
So I was in a kind of a pickle because, my ex-husband and I were going through a separation, and my residential status was like dependent on him because he was the primary sponsor for my visa. And there were like a lot of things that were going on, so my being in United States like became a little bit of a question mark, right, at one point. So I was like in a lot of like, oh, like, I can't control it, what's going to happen, I have no idea, right? So it's obviously very scary because I have my business here, I have my life here. Uprooting everything and going was a little scary. So there was a time when I got a lot of readings, and I think this was around 2021 before I got the green card. And one day I was feeling like really down and really low. And I got a reading from a reader, and she was like, oh, it doesn't look that great. It'll probably take like 2 more years or 3 more years to get your green card. I'm like, what? Oh,
No, that's awful.
that is awful. And then you know what? She predicted it wrongly. So
Okay.
it didn't take that long. It took a few months. After her reading, it took exactly 3 months, and I got my green card.
Okay, so let me ask you something there. So how that's where people, they'll start questioning things. They'll go, okay, see that example right there tells you that tarot is not accurate. But doesn't it
Exactly.
matter on based on the readers too? Like I know that I could buy a set of tarot card deck off the internet, study
Mhm.
what each card means, and then I can be like, okay, let me give someone a reading, and I read it based on, but I don't feel like I have the ability or the gift to be able to perform a reading.
Right. So let me tell you this. This is what I discovered about that reader. Again, no shade, like she was good, but I noticed that she was really projecting a lot based on my energy. Like, for example, in order to like do a really good reading, guys, you have to be really balanced. Let's say you have somebody that's saying, "Hey, I need a reading from you," right? You have to be very, very, very neutral and very indifferent to what the outcome is going to be, whether it's positive or negative. You have to cleanse yourself, maybe do a little bit guided meditation before you really connect to the ancestors, and then just pull cards, right? In this case, I had already told my situation to this reader, and I think my anxiety had passed on to her. And so the cards that she pulled were, accurate to currently what I was feeling at that time, but but it didn't give a really accurate prediction of the future. So
Right.
in order to know whether it's a good reader or not, you want to make sure that, they're grounded, their readings are coming from a neutral place with no judgment about this or that, so it has to come from a non-judgmental, balanced, neutral place. Then you know that they are a good reader.
Right. Agreed. Agreed.
Yeah,
And
that
I think that
kind of
from
like
the
answer your
readings,
question.
yeah, and from past like readings that I've had, I think you have to also be cautious of telling the reader your story because
Mhm.
sometimes I think that they go off of what you've said versus what the cards say.
Yes. And I think this is what I told you, Jonna. Like I said, tarot is a lot of interpretation. There's just so much interpretation there.
Right.
There, your interpretation as a reader, there is my interpretation as the receiver, and then the cards' interpretation for what they are.
Right.
Just very, very different. Like, for example, I'll give you an example, like Two of Cups, right? And I think I pulled that card for you. And is it okay if I share
Yeah,
that?
I don't, yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so Two of Cups, I pulled that card for Jonah, and Two of Cups, as you know, I'm sure many readers are listening to this. Cups is something which fills our heart, which fills our cup, which is love related, which is heart related. So when somebody pulls Two of Cups, they might immediately assume that, oh, she's going to meet a new person, she's going to have a love interest, she's going to be in a relationship. But love can come in so many ways. Love can come through a partnership, love can come through friendship, love can come through yourself, love can come through an activity. Like you
Work,
don't know
job,
exactly,
your house.
exactly. So love, Two of Cups, like okay, Two of Cups specifically is like another person coming, but that other person can really be anyone. So when I give a reading, I'll always say, this is what the cards interpret, but the different ways that we can interpret are these possibilities. Just so I give you that option.
Right.
And that's the way I do readings. I'm never like, this is what it is. That is what it is. Sometimes it is. Like, for example, I'll give you an example. One of my clients reached out to me. This was like 2 years ago. And he was like, I'm seeing this girl and I'm not sure where this is going. And I'm not sure. There's something unsure in me. So I need you to pull cards. Tell me how the first card I pulled was a backstabber.
Like,
The second card I pulled was a liar. I'm just like, oh my God.
that's awful for him. Did he break up with her?
Yes.
How
Yes. And you know what the funny part is?
would you feel if someone broke up with you and said it's because the tarot cards just came out real bad?
No, you know what I told him? I said, hey, I don't know anything about your relationship. I don't know anything about this person, but I've been very grounded and I connected with my ancestors. And this is what the cards are telling me.
Yeah.
I don't like to be arrogant and cocky and be like, this is, like
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
like to be humble. Like I'm just like, this is what the cards are telling me. This is what
Yeah.
I feel like I'm picking up. And I don't know if this is out of place for me to say this, but I have to don't shoot the messenger. Like this is the card.
Right.
And I told him, and he was like, oh my God, I have been having a feeling that she's been cheating on me and she's seeing this other guy. Like he didn't tell me this before I pulled the cards.
Yeah.
He told me this after. And
So
I
that
said,
makes sense. And see, this is why you don't tell your reader everything before because then you would interpret it that way and go, "Oh, she's cheating," or "Oh, she's this,"
Mhm.
because then you're kind of influenced a little bit by the story.
Yes, exactly. So we were able to have a really good conversation after that. And then I think they still dated for a month. And then he broke up because he actually got facts. He like saw proof that she was cheating.
That is insane.
Yep. 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 So it's sometimes it can be like on your face, very accurate. And sometimes it can be a very much like a metaphor, like two of
Yeah.
cups, for example, right? It's like, oh, this can mean this, it can also mean this, it can also mean that. So I think being really open-minded and being super grounded and being unattached to the outcome. That's why I don't read for my friends, because when they're too close, I think there is a part of me which like wants the best for them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it becomes a little bit hard. So I need to ground myself even more. And I need to like be like, nope, 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 not gonna attach,
Right.
it's generally recommended to like go to a person that, is a little indifferent, that doesn't know you and stuff like that. So, they can do their job.
Where did do we know where tarot originated from? Like who like country wise or like spiritual wise?
That's a really good question. I have no idea.
I'm gonna have to
Yeah.
Google it. Let me Google it real
You're gonna
quick.
have to Google it, but no, I don't do tarot a lot. Like I study tarot. I got certified in tarot, but I don't do tarot a lot just for this reason because I feel personally, again, I love tarot, but the downside of tarot is I feel like it takes away from your personal power.
Yes.
It takes away
Yes.
like, and I'll give you another example, right? This particular client came to me and she was like, "Hey, Meenu, like I really don't like my job and I really want to apply for other jobs. Like that's what I really want to do. But I had a tarot reading that told me not to do that, that told me not to quit my current job. But I feel very unaligned and I really feel aligned to apply for new jobs." I said, okay, okay. Cool.
But that's when you go back to my human design and you say, what does your human design tell you to do?
Yeah, but I didn't even do that with her. I was literally like, girl, your personal power, what you
Right.
want to do, your energy is so fucking powerful than anything else. Because let's debunk this a little bit. Human design is a tool. Tarot is a tool. Astrology is a tool. Can we survive without that? Yeah, we
Yeah,
can.
because you mentioned free will is the biggest thing.
Yes,
Like even though you have these
absolutely.
tools and people have these gifts, you
Yeah.
still in which that's what the Bible says too. Like God didn't tell us that he was going like if you don't believe in God, I'm sorry past this part, but like if you whatever God you do believe in or religion you believe in, but like
Mhm.
he gave us free will at the end of the day like to choose
Mhm.
what you want to do. Like he could have just made everybody, okay, you're all Christians and you're all going to follow me and but he said here's your free will, choose who you
Yeah,
want to believe in, choose what life you
exactly.
want to live.
Exactly. And like, not to make this about my green card situation again, but I'm just telling you, right? It's like she said it's going to take 2 to 3 years, and I got it in 3 months. And I truly believe there was so much of my free will that took place there because I was like manifesting the heck out of it. I was like putting good feelers out. I was doing my manifestation meditations. I was clearing like crazy. I really do feel like something in me shifted that timeline.
I
You know
agree.
what I
I
mean?
agree. Yeah.
So that's why I think like, yes, you have everything. You have tarot, you have astrology, you have human design. But I always tell my clients, like, don't get caught up because what you want to do, what's arising for you right now, that's more powerful than anything else. Your energy is more powerful than anything else. So get this, the client that said, oh, the tarot reading said I shouldn't quit my job, quit her job, found a much better job, and she's still on it.
Well, I just Googled this. So tarot cards originally originated in Italy in the 1430s.
Oof.
It says the earliest known tarot-like cards were hand painted and commissioned by wealthy families as a status symbol. The
Mm.
oldest surviving complete tarot deck is the Sola Busca deck, which originated in Italy in 1490. The word
Mhm.
terror comes from the word Tarachi, which was used to refer to the cards in 1530. The origin of the word Tarachi is unknown, but it may be connected to the Tara River in northern Italy.
Interesting. Very
Very
so obviously
interesting.
it's been there for a long time.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I said, there are like really legit readers. They're really amazing readers for sure. But I also do feel like if your feelings, if your energy is going against your reading, don't be afraid to do that.
Well, because
Don't.
you, that's when your intuition comes in too, right? Like you have to go based off your intuition, which I know going back to my human design a little bit, your
Mhm.
human design can kind of tells you how to tap into your intuition
Yes, it
because
does.
you had to help me with that a little bit because after I had my human design reading with you and I found out I'm a generator and I told you I have a really difficult time making decisions. I was like it's really hard for me because I'm like, "Oh, I kind of want to do this, I kind of don't." And you showed me the I don't know what the part is where it
Emotional,
says
the authority. The authority is the way how you make decisions. Yep.
yes, and you were like your authority, it's either you have to it has to be a all it has to be a definite yes,
Yep.
100% yes.
Yep. Because I think you're a sacral authority. So sacral authority is like a very much like yay or nay. It's not a maybe. So anytime it's a maybe, it's already a no.
Right. And so ever since you told me that, like now it's easier for me to make decisions. Cause
Yep.
for instance, just say like if someone's like, hey, do you want to go downtown and have drinks tonight? If I'm not
Hmm.
like, you know what? Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Or absolutely not. I want to stay home. Like if I'm like, oh, I don't know, kind of not. Then I go back to what you said. It literally sticks out in my head. I'll go, you know what? I'm saying maybe, no, I'm not going tonight.
Yep. That's exactly right. And it actually has saved a ton of time for people like sacral authority. Like for sacral authority, making decisions is actually easier than other authorities because it's either a full body yes or a no. Like that's it. The maybe is already a gray area. Like, and you say, and that means it's a no right now. That could be a yes tomorrow. But
Right.
if it's no, if it's a maybe today, then it's a no today. Like,
And it helped me like learn how to ask myself questions versus asking very vague questions. Like if a friend says, "Hey, Jonna, what do you want to go to lunch tomorrow?" And I'm like, "Yes, full body, yes, I want to go to lunch tomorrow." And she's
Yes.
like, "Okay, well, what do you want to eat?" Because
Uh-huh.
that's such a broad question. I'll go, "I don't know, you pick." I always say that to everybody.
Yeah.
But if someone comes to me and go, "What do you want to eat?" Are you thinking something a little more healthy or are you thinking you want to splurge a little bit?
Mm-hmm.
Asking those yes or no questions, I can then make an easier decision and I'm less indecisive. If I'm like, "Oh, you know what? I want to eat a little bit healthier." And then she goes, "Okay, well, there's only two options in town. Do you want to go to Mason Dixon or do you want to go here?" And I'm like,
Mm.
"Let's go to Mason Dixon."
There it
And then
is.
it's like
See?
problem
Yeah.
solved in two
Mhm.
seconds versus where do you want to eat? And I'm like, "I don't know."
Yeah.
And then, I'm that person that if I say I don't know, and then someone's like, "Well, what about here?" And I'm like, "No." And they're like, "What about here?" And I'm like, "No." So it's not that I don't know. It's just one of those, I have to do
Yeah.
a yes or no question. So I've learned
Yes.
that from
Yes.
you with my human design. So then have to break those broad questions down into
Yes.
yes or no questions.
Yes. No, absolutely. I fully agree with that. And I'm so glad you're using it. I'm so proud of
Yeah, yeah. All right, let's jump into the big one today, and that's astrology because astrology is very intriguing to me. I only know astrology is in the fact of, like you said, our zodiac signs. So, like
you.
the Aries, Scorpio, Cancers, things like that. But it
Yeah.
obviously is way bigger than that. There's a whole chart for it, a whole map for it. There's like sun rising, moon rising. And I was
Yeah.
just listening to something the other day that someone said it really doesn't matter what your zodiac sign is. Like, you know how people focus on like, oh, if you're a Cancer, this, you shouldn't
Yeah.
date this person. But someone said the moon, I can't remember if they said the sun or the moon rising was actually way more important than your actual zodiac
Rising.
sign.
The rising and the moon is more important than the sun because the
Why?
rising is how you walk, the way you walk through life. And then the moon is emotionally how you are and how you express feelings, right? Like,
Okay.
for example, I'm a Cancer sun. So I'm a Cancer, but a few people in my life have told me I don't come across as a Cancer.
Right.
I'm like, oh, okay. But because I have an Aries moon, so the way I express information, the way I express emotions is sharp, it's to the point. It's because I have fire moon, I have a water sun, but a fire moon. So fiery signs are always like fiery, they come in really strong, and they're not afraid to express their opinion. They're not afraid to like share their feelings. So whenever it comes to emotional processing, feelings and stuff like that, I feel like my Aries moon takes over and
Mm-hmm.
I express through that, you
Okay.
know. And then I'm also a Cancer rising, so the way I walk my life, so I have a double Cancer, so that's Cancer sun and rising, but the way I walk through life and walk my life is very much a Cancer, which is very much a nurturer, which is very much motherly, which is very much, a caretaker. Like I am always the caretaker in the group, I'm always the nurturer in the group, like any friend group, any wherever I go, it's just who I am, it's just who I naturally am. I don't even try to do that. It's just something that I do.
No, that's very interesting. And I know we're gonna next weekend maybe we can do a podcast after we're gonna do a Vedic astrology reading,
Yes,
which
girl. I'm so excited.
I didn't even hear, like I don't even know what is Vedic astrology? Like how is it different than just regular old astrology?
Yeah, so basically, I don't know the history about this, but I do know that Vedic astrology is one of the most ancient forms of astrology that was ever given to people, right? So whenever things are really that ancient, there is so much thought that goes into it. There's so much knowledge, there's so much more information, there's so much more research, there's just so much power that goes into something that is so old and so powerful. And I've also known that, yes, I've like gotten my reading done, astrological reading done from like different readers here with this, oh, Cancer sun, Aries moon, Cancer rising, and all of those things and different placements in my chart. But I have found, in my personal opinion, that Vedic astrology is the most accurate of all the astrologies. It like gives you timelines of things. It'll tell you, okay, October to November, this is what you can expect. Oh, December to February, this is what you can expect. Like I'm a numbers girl. I love facts. I love, statistics. And
Right.
I like it when it's like, when somebody can say, oh, between this time to this time, this is what you can expect. Like, I love tangible
Same.
results like that, rather than saying, oh, just, balance your energy for the next year. I'm like, no, that's not specific enough.
You know what's funny though about that? That me and you both love that, but we chose careers that are completely opposite of that. Like, not the current career that you have. We've not really talked about your past life on this podcast,
Mhm.
but you were in marketing prior
Mhm.
to you becoming a life coach, energy healer thing,
Yeah.
and then me being in nursing. Like, we
Mhm.
love like numbers and plans and things like
Yeah.
that. But in those jobs, there is
Mhm.
no planning. There is no, when shit hits the fan, shit hits the fan, and you got to figure out a whole new plan. Like, I would have
Exactly.
done better, which my math teacher in high school and in college tried to talk me into it. She was like, you really need to rethink your career. I don't think you're going to be happy as a nurse. I was like, but I love the caring and the nurturing side of it, but I
Mhm.
didn't love the unpredictability of it. She was
Yes.
like, I'm telling you, you're so good at math, be an engineer. And I was like,
Mm.
no, like, but looking back, I was like, you know what? I think that would have aligned a lot more.
That's
It's like,
really,
and,
that's
and you
so interesting.
and you changed your career path to be a little bit more predictable because you can set your own schedule. You're an entrepreneur. It's like, I'm only going to work between these hours and this hour,
Like,
you know? So you did change your career plan from the unpredictability to what you have now.
exactly. And I can't, like, with marketing, the thing is like, you can be a great marketer, but your client has to like you. Your client has to see your plan. Like, there's so much like you can't control when you're doing marketing. Like, there's so much, it's about the client, it's about the agency, it's about your boss. There's so much control outside. And for me, like, call me a control freak. I like to control my life.
Same.
Like, I like to control my schedule. Like, I like to control everything. I like to, with my clients now, I can show up the way that I want to show up, and they will get result based on what I give them. So there is a lot of like, there is a lot of like autonomy here. I feel like there is a lot of things that I can do. I'm not saying I can control my clients. I certainly can't control their outcome, but I can
Right.
control the way I show up. I can control the way, the tools work. I can control the way I coach them. So there is so much that I can do. And I feel so much in my element when I can do that. You know what I mean?
Right. And like the job that I have now it's taken away from bedside nursing, like more, it's more office work and stuff like that. I do have a little bit more control. I don't have control over my schedule, but I have a
Right.
little bit more control on how I teach, how I educate, things like
Yeah.
that. And I have felt more aligned in the position I am in now, even though I probably would have excelled a lot better being an engineer.
Mhm. Oh, I mean, girl, I mean, I suck at math, so I can't say that. I
But
like,
I just like when it comes to math versus nursing, and I'll just give this little synopsis. It makes more sense to me because I love plans. And with
yeah,
math, like if you follow these set of rules, you get the
that's
correct
right.
answer every time.
That's so
With
true.
nursing, whenever you do a test and it gives you a question and it says which one, and you're looking at A, B, C, or D, and you're like, well, they're all right answers, but you have to pick the best right one. They're all right, but you have to pick the best right one.
Right, right, right. No,
And I
absolutely. I can see that. I can totally see. I can totally, but I think you're amazing. I mean, Jonna says a lot of things, guys, but Jonna's truly amazing. Like,
Oh, thank you. You might be the only one that thinks that. But anywho, getting back to astrology a little bit. So, how does one come up with the astrology chart versus like the human design chart? Is it the same? Is it the time, the place?
It is
Um,
exactly the same. So it's like you put in the time, you put in the place, and with astrology, you really do need to have your time of birth. And I feel like a lot of people struggle to have that. So I'll like with some of my clients, they've been successful. They've called the hospital and they've been able to get, their exact time of birth. Some of them don't have it in their birth certificate.
and for example, if you don't have the exact time of birth, how I had the issues. So, my birth certificate somehow got lost. Thanks, mom.
Mm.
Um, but my birth certificate got lost, and I had to get a copy of it. For schooling or something to send in. And I went to the health department or something to get a copy.
Mm.
But when it's just a copy, it doesn't have the time on there because all my friends kept going, it's on your birth certificate. And I was like, no, it's not. And then I remembered I had to get a copy of it. But
Mm.
then what I did was I sent in for a certified copy. If you get a
Okay.
certified copy, they actually send a certified original copy of your birth certificate. So now, like, and I think I paid $30 to get it. It was like an online thing. So
Okay.
it took 2 months to get, but
Mhm.
I just thought that was really cool. So like if you're out there, if you've lost it, if something devastating has happened, like a house fire or something, you can go online and just Google how to get a certified copy. I can't
Mhm.
remember the exact agency I used, but it cost me $30. And that was for the paperwork, for the shipping cost.
Yeah.
It was cheap. It was not expensive.
No, absolutely. So, like, getting back to astrology, right? Like, I don't do astrological readings, but I have like contacts in India that do amazing astrological, like
Oh,
way
I'm so
deep
excited about
astrology.
mine.
Yeah, and we're gonna do like John's next week. So, yay! I'm so
Yeah, and
excited.
I'm happy to like like do an episode and podcast on it. Like I like that if people want to hear it. Like I'm fine doing that if you want to do that.
Yeah, for sure. Oh my God, I'm very curious to see what comes up.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, obviously I'm going to talk to you before we get on there, but I'm happy to,
Yes.
to share it. So I'm not like shocked online when I'm like, oh shit.
I will never do that to you, girl. Like never. Yeah, and then we also like wanted to, in the spirit of Halloween, we like want to talk about spirits, right? It's like, are they real? You know, are they here? Is it just woo-woo? Is paranormal activity all like bullshit? And stuff like that. And I'm just gonna tell you my experience, guys. Like spirits are very much real. Like they are, and you know, it's not as much as paranormal. I do feel like in movies they have to like make it that way with the sound effects and with things falling and banging on the floor, they make it like always scary. The way I see spirits are like they're human consciousness, but they're on another plane. They
Right.
are not physical like us where they can't touch and feel, but they're human consciousness. So they can probably see us and we can't see them, or sometimes we can see them and they can't see us. So they're just literally on another plane. And not everybody is like out there to get you. So it's not something that constantly has to be in a cycle of fear or horror or terror, right? However, demons, on the other hand, because some spirits can be very demonic, I do not mess with demons. I've not worked with demons, but I have worked with like some spirits which are stuck, which have not crossed over successfully to the other side.
I didn't know this about you. We have never talked about this. Oh my God. So are you a medium? Like, can you see spirits?
I can't see them, but I can feel them
Oh
sometimes.
my God, I didn't know this. Okay, now this has gotten really interesting. And I'm glad this was my first reaction because I didn't know this. So, like, do you know Chris Medina?
No.
So Chris Medina is a psychic medium in
Okay.
LA and he reads for celebrities and stuff like this. And I heard about him because I watched like a lot of Vanderpump Rules cast
Hmm.
and I
Hmm.
listened to their podcast.
Yeah.
He was on a podcast with Stassi and he was explaining everything about her upcoming birth and she was having difficulty like getting pregnant and he was like, "No, I'm telling you, like you're about to have a little girl." And she was like, "Well, that's funny that you say that because everybody tells me I'm going to have a little boy." He was like,
Oh,
"No, you're going to have a little girl." Um and then he basically predicted her getting fired from the show, told her he was going to have the work because he's also like you. He's like, I'm not going to sugarcoat things for you. I'm going to tell you what I see.
yeah.
The like all that stuff happened to her, and she had him back on her podcast, and I was like, oh my God. I was like, I've got to get a reading from this guy. So I did.
Hmm.
And by the end of like he was doing things and it's all recorded. He was saying things like, "Hey, by the way, I see a little bit with your health. Like, do you have thyroid problems? This man does not know me." And I
Oh
was
my
like,
God.
yes. I was like, I have autoimmune thyroid problems. He was like, yeah, I've noticed it's gotten worse since the COVID vaccine. He was like, did you recently get the COVID vaccine? And it was during, I was like, yes. He was like,
Oh.
how have your labs been? I was like, terrible. And like predicted all that. But then like at the end of it to say all that, like I didn't ask for a medium reading, but he just said, so are you comfortable with me telling you about some spirits? And I was just like, and instantly like hair stood up on the back of my neck. And I was like,
Mhm.
yeah, as long as you're like not gonna tell like, because I'm scared of everything. Any friend knows that I'm scared of everything. And he was like, there's someone who passed away that watches over you frequently and just keeps repeating to me, she's not smiling like she used to. She's not smiling like she used to. And I instantly started crying
Ooh.
because I knew exactly. He was like, "Do you know who that is?" And I was just like, "Well, can you verify if it's male or female?" And he was like, "It's a female." And I was like, "Yeah, that's my grandmother. She used to pinch my butt as a little kid and go, 'You have the prettiest smile,' all the
Oh.
time." So like, and I just instantly like hair stood up. But initially, I thought he was going to talk about my uncle because my uncle had recently passed when I had
Mhm.
this reading.
Mhm.
Because my grandmother passed like years ago, and he
Yeah.
was like, "Well, she's wanting me to let you know everything's going to be okay, and she wants to see you smiling like you used to." And I just
Oh,
like instantly started crying. Like all of this is videoed, and I was just like, I told my mom, and like she started crying because she knew what my grandma used to say to me too. He would never know what she used to say to me.
right. Oh my God, that's amazing.
So I think I did not know that you had that gift as well.
It's
Does it
not a
not?
gift,
It
you
is
know.
a gift. It is a gift. Like, so, like, if you can feel spirits but not see them, I feel like it would be
Mhm.
the same thing. Like, when was the first time you felt a spirit?
Oh my gosh. Okay, now my hairs are standing on on top of my hands. Okay, so this is really interesting. Going to be a little vulnerable, but be honest and share a story that happened. So in 2021, when I was, like going through a separation with my ex-husband and I was feeling like crap. And actually, no, my bad. This was 2020. And again, pandemic, everything in my life was like falling apart. Like I didn't know if I was going to be in the United States. The only sense of security that I had in my marriage was gone. There was nothing that was mine which I felt safe in. I didn't know if I was going to be in the same house, so everything felt like it would just shatter and everything felt like it would just go. And then I remember like having a really good cry, and then I just meditated. And I meditated for an hour. I was very deep in meditation, and then I heard this voice, a male voice, a very strong male voice that said, everything is going to be okay really soon, sooner than you think. Don't worry. And
Wow.
I was tripping. I was like, what? Is it my imagination? Because that was the first time ever. I did not understand. I was like, is this my imagination? Is it God? Is it spirit? And then get this. I could feel somebody behind me. This was in my kitchen.
This would scare the
Breathe.
shit out of me. I would be like, what? But did you feel scared or did you feel
That's
like
the
an
best
overall
part.
calm?
That
Okay.
is the best part. I didn't feel scared because usually I think the answer is in the feeling. Like when you don't feel scared, that already means that it's not a threatening energy.
Okay.
So then I felt this energy behind me. I was sitting in the chair and meditating in my kitchen, and I felt this energy behind me, and I could hear somebody breathing very loudly, like almost
Now
like
hairs are standing up on my neck.
breathing really loudly. And you know what the funny part is? At first, I thought it was my dog, but then the dog was not there. I'm like, who in the world? And then the best part about all this is I was not scared. And then I called up my mother. Mom, thank you for listening to my podcast. I know you're listening to this. And I called up my mother. And I was like, so this is the episode that I had. And I felt somebody breathing really loudly. But yet I felt a very strong male presence and a loving male presence. Right. And then she goes, don't you remember that grandpa had diabetes and the way he breathed, like his breath was really like that? I was
Uh-huh.
like, oh my God.
And then did the voice then ring true to you? Like,
Yes.
then you were like, oh my God, that was my grandfather? That is
Yes.
so crazy. So this is more of a recent gift that you've tapped into.
Yes, this was 2020, right? 2020 is when I discovered that, oh, I can hear and I can feel. I can still not see. I'm not clairvoyant. I know a lot of people have that gift, but I can hear and sense, right? Like, so I'm
Oh,
clair.
we've got to get you on. We've got to hook you up with Chris because he could probably help you tap even further into your gift.
Oh, girl, like, so I have done, I know we haven't talked about it. I have done a few assignments in Nashville and one out of state. And I've done some cleansing, when people have said there's something, like weird going on, they feel stuck energy, they feel like things are not going well in their house. I've done cleanses, but it's not on my website. So I don't do it as like a primary thing. I usually, when I get a request, I like call in my spirit guides and check in to see if I'm the one that's supposed to do the work. And only if I get a yes, I'll like move forward. Like I actually did it with a pretty big establishment in Nashville. Like I can't tell the name of that establishment, but I did it with a pretty big establishment in Nashville. And they had about 10, no, they had 12 spirits. And I trained somebody else to go with me. This happened in 2022 end. And we went there and we did cleansing for about 4 to 5 hours. And then we got a great report after 2 weeks saying they don't feel those funny activities and the energy is completely different. So, yay!
That is
It,
so cool. Like, I know some people are like, oh my God, like that's scary. And it can be scary if you don't know what you're doing. But like, I do like love listening to all this and learning this because I do believe in it. I do believe people have gifts. I do believe all of that. Like, now, like, I know I asked Chris this on the podcast I had with him. I'll ask you the same question, then I'll tell you his response. But like, do you like, let's say you're just shopping in Walmart and
Mhm.
you see something like a person, like since you can't see them, can you sense a spirit with someone? Like, do you ever feel like feel the need to go up to them and tap them on the shoulder and be like, hey, I just really feel like you need to know this?
No,
Okay.
because I don't talk to strangers.
Chris
You
said
know,
the same thing. Chris said it's not his place to do that
it's
if
not
people don't
exactly.
ask. Like,
It's really not. It's really
okay.
not. And plus, like, I'm a projector and I don't talk to strangers. Like, even, I mean, not to deviate from this topic, like, Jonna has like told me so many things about people that she knows that would like benefit from my services. And I've always told Jonna, like, when they feel called, they'll reach out. When they feel,
That's
you know,
what Chris says. Yeah.
so I really believe like if people feel that, they'll come to me and I may have a thing or two to say to them. Maybe I will be of service, maybe I won't be of service, somebody else will be of service. Like, so I really, like, when I say I really surrender to the forces, I really surrender to the supreme forces when it comes to this work.
But I also feel like that makes you and like people like you authentic because you know how like there's so many scams right now, right? Like people are sliding into people's DMs on Instagram or Facebook or something like that, being like, hey, I can give you a reading if you pay me this much money.
Mm.
And Chris has said multiple times the same thing, like he would never do that. I know you would never do that because it also stays authentic to you because you're like, that just means if someone doesn't come to me, they're not ready.
No, absolutely. And I love this boundary that I think you also had, which you told me, which I was like, damn, that is strict. But then I thought about it later and I'm like, yeah, that's a good boundary. And, when it comes to like fitness advice and when it comes to, all those things, like Jonna and I were discussing this, and she said, well, if somebody doesn't reach out to me, then they're probably not ready. At first, I thought it was like, oh, that's very,
Mhm.
aggressive. But then when I thought about it, I was like, oh, it's a very similar boundary that I have.
Yeah, and where Menu's coming from with that, which we'll talk about whenever she's ready later. But we have been talking nutrition, and y'all know that I used to coach nutritionally, and it's one of a big passion of mine. But just being nutrition in general, like, and I know this goes along with anything, whether it be spiritual coaching, energy coaching, anything. Like when someone is truly wanting to change their life, whether that be through diet, exercise, spirit, healing, anything, people do reach out
Oh,
and
1000%.
and they make it happen because I know when I dabbled in talking to me and you about life coaching and stuff like that, like it took me about a month to do it. I was
Hmm.
very, very interested after the podcast that you and I did now over a year ago. It like literally got me like, okay, I'm really ready to do this. Or sorry, before the podcast, like I had reached out to you a month before the podcast. And I was like,
Hmm.
let's get on the podcast. And then I was
Yeah.
like, guys, I'm very interested in coaching with you. And then you were like, okay, yeah, this is my rates. This is what I do. And I remember going, yeah, I'm interested. And then I left it at that. And then we did the podcast. And as soon as that podcast, I was like, okay, I'm ready. And I had texted you right after we got off the podcast, and you were like, yeah, okay, if you're ready. I was like, no, 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 I'm ready. Send me the link to pay. We're doing this tomorrow. And you were like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, yeah, you're ready.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I had a recent encounter with like somebody else too, and they were like, "Oh, I want to do like I don't know if I have to work with this coach or I have to work with you. And, can you tell me how that works?" I said, "Well, that's a you decision. I can't tell you to pick me. I won't do that because I have no idea about that other coach. I don't know no idea about what they do. Maybe what they do is what you need right now. I don't know. I can't." I said, "Make a pros and cons list. This is what I do. I'm very transparent about what I do. Like, this is what I do. Look up my website, look up my reviews. You can ask me any questions. We can get on a consult call. I'll tell you exactly what I do. Do the same thing with that coach and then pick and choose because it's not my place. It's not my style. And if it's somebody else's style, no shame. Maybe that's the way you want to do it. But it's just, not my style. So yeah.
Right. Now, speaking of what you do, if anybody wanted to get like a human design or a tarot reading from you, I know you do human design readings for people. I don't know if you do tarot because I know that's not something like you just sit out and advertise. But if someone's listening to this and they're like, wow, I really love Minu's energy and the way she's talking about this, I want either a human design or a tarot reading. Is that
Mhm.
something that they can reach out to you, or how would they reach out to you to get?
Yeah, absolutely. Like we can put it in the show notes. Like, I have a website, so, you can book through the show notes if you want a human design reading. And if you wanted like tarot, I don't charge additional for tarot, but if you wanted to do like a human design reading with tarot, then I'd be happy to do the human design reading and also like pull a few cards for you just for guidance and stuff, which will kind of like be both in one. And we can
Yeah.
also record the session. So whenever I do like long readings, like 60 to 90-minute readings, I always like record the session and I'll give it to the client so they can look at it from time to time, because human design is something that will never change, right? So whenever you feel like out of alignment in life later, maybe 6 months later, you feel out of alignment and you want to like look at your chart and you want to recheck certain things, right? You can always go back to it, listen to the reading again. And I have known people that have listened to the readings, our readings, like 5, 6 times sometimes, and that has every time they listen to it, they unlock something else. So it can be very beneficial. If you feel called to it, I am open. We can definitely do it.
Yeah, I love it. No,
Yeah.
thank you for doing this. And guys, this is just in honor of spooky season coming up. We wanted to give y'all a little bit of spirit, terror. I keep saying terror. I pronounce everything wrong. Tarot, human design, astrology, all the things. And yeah, keep the ideas coming in the inbox, guys. We love
Yes.
doing podcasts together. We just
Yes.
love it.
Yes, and we really like, I was talking to Jonah about like how to sage, how to do Palo Santo, the benefits of
Yes.
cleansing and stuff. Maybe we should do an episode on that, Jonah, since like Halloween is coming up. And
Yes.
I think that would be amazing. Just like the different ways to do cleansing and all the tools that are available. Maybe we can do like a follow-up episode in this to the next, and then that
Yes.
can be super beneficial.
And I know that me and Minu have been talking like behind the scenes. So she's gonna eventually come to Huntsville and visit me
Yes.
because what we're gonna do is get some content for her, but we also want to record in person just to have a little bit of a different vibe.
Yep.
And hopefully the goal is to do a video podcast for y'all because everything is transitioning to video. I
Yep.
know I know we're both on YouTube, right? You're on YouTube, correct?
No, I'm not. I need to
Oh,
get
okay.
on it. I've
Well,
been I've been feeling it.
so I'm on YouTube, but audio only. So
Okay.
hopefully, once you come down, because I definitely want to reach out to my friend Kenny. She does videography and stuff like that in town, so she could come record us. She could help edit it. She could teach us everything, and then we would have a video episode for y'all.
Oh my God, that would be so much fun. Yes, guys, stay tuned. We're going to be doing so many more episodes. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for all the questions. I just love talking about this stuff. You know it.
I know, same. All right, guys. Until next time. Bye.
Bye bye.